Welcome to Power Talks with Santosh. Today we have a very distinguished guest with us, His Excellency Mr. THILSTED, the Ambassador of Denmark to Nepal. Denmark is well known for its competitive economic ease. Denmark is also well known for its generosity and philanthropy, especially in manifesting the Millennium Development Goals of the United Nations worldwide. The recent economic crisis has hit hard on most of the nations worldwide, even the developed nations. In fact, mostly the developed nations. Your Excellency, how much has the global economic crisis affected, or to what extent has it affected the internal economy of Denmark?
I don't think you can give any figure of how the crisis has hit Denmark, but it has hit Denmark. The last two periods of 2008, our export went down by 7%. Nonetheless, the export in 2008 was positive with plus 6% compared to 2007. And the Danish export is huge. It's 100 billion US dollars. It's 10 times more than the overall GDP of Nepal. But as I said, it has gone down in the last quarters, and it will go down because we are exporting to countries like the UK, to the US, to Germany, that are all hit by the international crisis. We can also see that there are banks that have cracked. The government is now planning to assist the banking, as well as they're assisting with tax cuts. So there's a number of issues where the government now have to step in order to try to minimize the influence of the international crisis. All countries will be hit, also Nepal. We have to realize that yes, Nepal was not very close to the international financial institutions, but you have many laborers working abroad, and when there's no job in Dubai, they will not be able to send money back to Nepal, and eventually they will have to come back. So you will unfortunately also be hit. It's a sign of the globalization. We are all in the same boat, and we have to solve it somehow together.
Your Excellency, has it also affected the daily life? Like, it seems that 6% of growth and minus 7% is very minimum, minus 1% of the GDP loss because of the global economic crisis. But how much has it affected the daily life of common people in Denmark?
Well, it has affected in the sense that if you go a year back, we were asking for manpower. Now we are laying off people. So people are starting to get unemployed. We had a very well-functioning welfare system in Denmark. And people, they have supported unemployment funds. At one time, particularly the young ones, did not support unemployment funds. And they will now feel it. They haven't insured themselves for bad times. So we know it's coming. We know it's there, but we will try, and the government will try, to minimize it as much as possible.
By now, the international students from outside Denmark were seeking opportunities to study in Denmark. And now there might be a cut in the scholarships?
No, this is not about a cut in scholarships, but if you take the Nepali students in Denmark, and some of them believe too optimistically that they can fund their stay by working in Denmark. I don't think they can. They need to bring some money from Nepal, but they can get a job. But of course, if suddenly there is a crisis and there is less need for hands, they will also be hit. Everybody will be hit. We have seen it. The estate market has gone down. Years back, there was a huge increase in property prices. They're now coming down. So people have lost money. Some of them real, some of them just on the paper. The most important thing is, of course, how can we continue with our export, because that's where we get our money.
Denmark has been one of the leading donor agencies for Nepal's development. And with the current global economic crisis, will we be seeing some cut in the size of support in the future for Nepal?
Well, for the moment, the answer is clearly no. We have a country frame of about $40 million US, and that will continue.
For this year?
For this year. There is a link between our overall development assistance and the Danish GDP. It is 0.8% of the GDP. Some years back it was 1%. The government then lowered it to 0.8%, but they're now talking about increasing it again. So if they increase it back to the 1%, there will be more money. If they don't, there might be a little less, because if the GDP goes down, there will be less if we take 0.8% for development assistance. But I don't think anything will hit Nepal in that sense from the Danish side.
What about the Millennium Development Goals manifestation worldwide?
Well, when we talk about it worldwide, I think of course it will. I have seen papers where they are now going to discuss how will the crisis hit countries in the developing world. Because we don't want it to hit too hard. We are all trying, as I said, an effort to make sure that it doesn't become a disaster. But I think it will hit everybody hard. The first development goal is hunger and poverty. And you have seen the world prices of food have gone up. So unavoidable, I think, not to have an impact on the MDG. But then again, MDG is 2015, so we're only halfway. So let's hope this crisis does take more than a few years and we will get back to where we were just a year back.
Will there be any positive sign from Barack Obama's victory and his take on the economic crisis solutions?
Well, America is the leading nation and their economy is very important for the rest of the world. So I think the answer there is yes.
When we look at Denmark, in 1940s, due to the Second World War, the entire Europe suffered. It was in a devastated situation. But if we see today in 21st century, Denmark is one of the leading economic nations. How was this success achieved? Because there will be so much to learn from Denmark.
Well, I was born in 1945, so I have lived through it. And yes, Denmark has gone through a tremendous change from 1945 until today. Since 1945, we had constant economic progress, we had peace, and we have seen a life that we have never dreamed of. At that time, we also established our welfare system. If you're ill and you cannot provide for yourself, the society is prepared to help you. Education is free, hospitals are free, there is an old age pension. It is not high. If I mention the figure, 70,000 rupees per month, it will be a high figure in Nepal, but it's not a high figure in my society. And we also saw a drastic change from agriculture to industry to service society to IT society, where every household has a computer. We have to realize, of course, that these 60 years we have been lucky. We have seen progress. It's written nowhere it will continue.
Your Excellency will talk more about your work in the diplomatic missions and development after a short break.